Good afternoon. We are certainly thankful to be here today, and I want to welcome you to Wisconsin General Baptist State Convention this afternoon broadcast as we share with uh, persons in our community who are gifted in multimedia applications. We are thankful to have Bishop Kendrick Scales from Scales Pro Audio. We want to welcome him into the stream. He comes to us with uh, many years of experience in working with audio and video systems, with the design as well as with the installation. In fact, he's joining us today on location while he's doing an install in the city of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Correct.
And
Harvey, actually.
pardon me?
I'm in
In,
Harvey.
in Harvey, Illinois.
Yes.
And you are native to Illinois, correct?
Correct.
And he and his wife Leslie are residents of Racine, Wisconsin, and but he covers the Chicagoland area and southeast Wisconsin, and he's worked with a number of churches and other businesses in our area, and ensuring that they have quality sound and video systems. So we want to welcome Bishop Scales.
Bless you, sir. Thank you so
Yes,
much
sir.
for having me here.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
I'm currently at St. Mark Baptist Church in Harvey, Illinois. Um, we're doing a full video overhaul, new projectors, TVs, cameras, 4K cameras, even though you can't broadcast 4K. So that's where we are.
All right. All right. Well, welcome, Bishop Scales from Scales Pro Audio.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we want to invite both Cavell and Sharon Samuels to our stream from Kingdom First Consulting. They're both residents of Racine, Wisconsin, natives of Racine, Wisconsin, and they've been partnering in this business since 2014. And they both bring vast experience to administrative work and website development, experience in also doing applications for multimedia devices. Cavell is an author of, I believe, two books. I have one in possession, and I'm eager to gobble up everything that he writes because it's good reading. Let's welcome both Cavell and Sharon to the stream from Kingdom First Consulting. Good afternoon, both of you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Pastor. How are you?
Doing very well, sir. Doing very well. All right, and so yeah, since 2014, you launched Kingdom First Consulting, and just give us a brief description of the work that you're working on right now.
Again, thank you so much to you and the Wisconsin General Baptist State Convention of Wisconsin for having us here on this afternoon. Kingdom First Consulting is a business and a ministry that me and my wife started off in 2014, like you said. And the main aim and gist of what Kingdom First Consulting does is to help churches and ministries build king-size skills for king-size visions in an administrative capacity. In short, our main aim and goal is to lift the administrative load off of pastors and ministries. So we offer a vast variety of administrative training for specific roles and specific assignments within the context of the business aspect of church and ministry. So this is your executive pastors, financial secretaries, administrative assistants, secretaries, and people who play in that role in a church and ministry. In addition to the administrative training, we also do website design and also website upkeep and maintenance as well. And my wife is going to share a little bit more about that.
All right, great. Thank you both. And we want to invite our third guest in, and then we'll come back and expand our conversation on what each of you offer. And we're eager to hear from Sharon because we know that she is the brains behind the operation.
That's it. She's the brains. Amen.
Our third panelist today is Matthew Mixon, and he's a native of Milwaukee, and he has vast experience in production, studio production, uh, and he has a lot of information that he will share himself about his background. We're thankful that God has given him a full career and in retirement brings him back to Wisconsin. And with the expertise that he's had, I've been able to connect with him through other pastors and leaders in Wisconsin. Most recently, with the Souls to the Polls Milwaukee campaign that was extended to Racine and Southeast Wisconsin. Matt was a key and integral part in helping us get the message out and to connect with one another in the midst of this pandemic. And so the work that he does is going to be vital and critical, as well as all of you, to really help boost our efforts in the midst of a pandemic and to get us prepared for our reach even beyond the pandemic. So let's welcome Matt to the stream. And Matt, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pastor, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So glad to have you. Matt, why don't you just highlight a few of the things beyond what I've said already?
Well, at heart, I'm a storyteller, and I think that's the greatest application of electronic media. And one of the things that I stress often is that so often we think parochially about what our digital footprint is. We think about talking to our friends down the street. We think about using Facebook to talk to a few people. But I recall a photograph I saw at a convention. I was coming down an escalator at Moscone Center in San Francisco, and there was a very large image on the wall of an African woman carrying on her shoulder a black and white TV as she's walking down a muddy path. And the caption said, "Today, almost anyone can watch almost anything from almost anywhere." Now, this was in the early 1980s. The internet had not developed. We weren't using apps like Facebook and Periscope and all of that. And it strikes me how powerful that statement is in today, because today we can develop friendships with people from the other side of our country, the other side of the globe. And that's what excites me the most. So.
Thank you, Matt, and thanks for joining us. And man, you are quite the storyteller, and I'm sure that the preachers that are listening are taking notes because we we like to use those illustrations, and we'll drop them in our sermons in a New York minute. So, Bishop Scales, God bless you, my friend, and Bishop Scales and I have connected on numerous occasions, and there have been pastors that have been in dilemmas, stuck between a rock and a hard place, and we call Bishop Scales, and Bishop Scales comes to the rescue with recommendations that can basically fit anybody's budget and schedule. And most of the time you come in and you're able to help people get up and going right on schedule.
Yes, sir.
So why don't you just really kind of talk about the pro audio, especially because right now the video piece of what you do is so important with us being limited in our ability to meet and gather. So why don't you talk about really what you do and how you can best advise and support pastors and churches?
Well, right now, I would say the key thing of my business or my ministry is making sure I connect the dots. Some places need one mic, some places need 5 mics, some places need 1 speaker, 5 speakers, and so forth. So I would say I'm troubleshooting and connecting the dots between A to Z. which could be from the website to the production side of it. Without audio, you have nothing to listen to or hear. And audio is an intricate part of ministry. I'm currently at Greater Mount Sinai in Milwaukee on 60th and Custer. I've been there 3 years. And when they brought me on board, the key thing was not just give them a good sound, but make the sound reproductive. And I think that's where a lot of our churches are. They're not making their sound reproductive for the video side, for the podcast side, for the advertisement side, because now churches are making commercials, whether it's Facebook, Zoom, or whatever. They're making commercials. So my job now has basically turned the curve, if I could use that term, now that we out of this presidency, turn the curve and get you going down the right pathway. Most churches, if I could say this also, are still stuck in the 70s and 80s, where you can go to the radio, to the music store, buy you something, but it's not fit for your church. You've either outgrown it or it's antiquated. We're in the digital world now, not in the analog. And my job is to bring all that together at a short period of time with a good budget.
Okay. And you do very well at that, my friend. You do very
you,
well at that. Let's take a second and ask Sharon Samuels to kind of expand on the intro that Cavell has given us about Kingdom First, and share some of what the two of you can do and what you've been able to do to bless churches and help pastors during this season.
One thing that is very important between the both of us is just making sure that churches have what they need administratively to be efficient and effective. My husband uses the term that a lot of times leaders have. What is it called?
Paralysis analysis.
Not paralysis analysis. Another one, the Happy Meal.
Have king size visions,
king size
meal size administrative skill levels.
Happy Meal size administrative skill levels, and we came across that. Well, he came across that one day where he was talking with a former colleague of his, and they mentioned to him that they were still learning what they were learning as far as being a secretary, church secretary, administrator, and they wished that they had him to teach, what he knew, and that just struck a chord with him and made us want to get into helping other ministries. If you're just getting started out on being a church secretary, if you're just learning about administration, what all goes into being an administrator of a church, handling the business side of a church. A lot of people, all they see is you come to church on Sunday, you give an offering, you shout a little bit, you go home. They don't know all the things that take place on the back end to make sure that when you come in the building, you have lights, you have heat, you have air conditioning, you have a music, sound, all of that. They don't know the back end of it, but the back end of it is run by a person or persons, recommendably a team of people. But a lot of churches have just like one, maybe two, by the grace of God, person running everything behind closed doors. And they don't always have the training to do what it is that they're expected to do. And that's where we've come in. We've got how many years experience between the two of us? I don't know.
35 years.
35 years. I've been working in my current position as church secretary for a little over 20 years. And so I know a lot more now that I can share with people who are just coming into that area of church administration to help them so they don't have to struggle like I did when I first started.
Right.
So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is just getting churches into 2020 or just into the 2000s as far as web presence. A lot of churches don't believe that they need a web presence. They're still relying on people finding them in phone books. But if you take a look around, phone books aren't really existent much in the world today. people are looking on Google to find out what church they want to go to in a particular general area. And if your church doesn't have any web presence, they're not going to be able to find you. Not everyone's looking on Facebook to try and find a church. They go straight to Google or Bing or Yahoo search or wherever they're looking for. And so that's where we say we want to help churches in that area to make it affordable, because a lot of times churches think website and they think it's too expensive, but it doesn't have to be. It all depends on what you want, and even what you want is doable within a certain budget. So,
all right, thank you so much, and I really like the way that the two of you kind of deal with that relational and that functional aspect of how things have to work, because most people with the church, they only think about the relational part. They don't really think about the functional. Who's going to make sure that things are in place and it's going to be right when we connect, when we come to relate with each other, when we come to worship. The piano has to be tuned. The Leslie organ has to be serviced, and light bulbs have to be changed, and the fixtures have to be cleaned, and the bathroom has to be functional. Stuff. And in the middle of this pandemic, guess what? Most of us had to upgrade our internet.
Yes.
So we for not just download speed, but upload speed, because you can't stream without a good upload.
Right.
And so that's one of those functional things that has to be handled administratively. And so you are right. There is a small pool of people who manage those things, and we thank God for what the two of you do. We're going to turn to Matt, and Matt has some great information to share with us about Mixon Media Group. His information is scrolling across the ticker now. Matt, go ahead and talk with us about what you do and how you can help pastors, churches, ministries, and groups.
Well, first, I'd like to say I'm really glad to be on this program today, and I hope at some point I can work with Scales Pro Audio and Kingdom First Consulting. What I do is consult on content development. In some cases, I produce programs for independent companies. I give lectures, and in some cases, I write scripts and put together shows and pieces. It's important for me to have people understand the importance of planning in their video production. So many people just go right into it and they don't give a lot of deep thought to how to structure a program from beginning to end. So I start with the basics, building a production chart, something that does not tax the team, something that doesn't call for more horsepower than you've got to give. And a lot of people don't understand that you can go beyond what used to be your parochial footprint, and now you can reach globally. You can bring in guests from all over the world if you want to. If there's a church in San Francisco like Glide Memorial, and you want to talk about how their choir interacts with the community and goes on tour, you can have them as your guest on a StreamYard or a Zoom. All of those things are possible. And in my television career, as I've moved around the country, in my early days as a local TV producer, one of the very first assignments I got was to produce and direct a program called A Show of Faith. And it was a sit-down talk show studio. And that's about all I could handle as a young producer. I didn't really know that much back in those days. But I often think about A Show of Faith and updating it for 2021 because the topics that were talked about back then were just safe. And today we have so many real world issues to talk about. And if you asked a panel of people, for example, to talk about how a family stays together when one of their family members commits a heinous crime, maybe taking a life, that is where your faith comes together. That is also a talk show of great interest. Another segment could be talking to young people about managing their finances, talking to families about how to get out of debt, talking about how to get through an employment crisis where there's no money coming in, but you still got mouths to feed. Video can play a tremendous role. It can be a tremendous asset in spreading the word or in educating. So I get my greatest joy when I can help people think bigger than their normal parochial footprint.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate that. You bring so much to the table with your production experience. And I want to ask this question first to Matt, but then we want to go around to the entire panel. And I would like for you to offer advice and a suggestion as to what type of streaming platforms would you recommend to pastors and congregations who really would like to stream or improve their internet presence. And let's do that first, and then we can come back and maybe kind of dismantle each one of them, talk about pros and cons and things of that nature. But if there's a recommendation, let's talk maybe top 3 to 5 platforms that you might use or recommend to a pastor or a church.
Okay. Well, I always begin with the basics. This is a very powerful tool. Very powerful tool. I can reach the world while I'm sitting on the edge of my bed.
Yep.
And this camera is so powerful. If I wanted to use my phone to stream a church service, I could easily do that. A couple of years ago, a friend asked me to shoot video of their wedding. And I got there with my big camera, my Canon camera and my tripod. And as soon as I got in there, I realized the place was so dark, I was having trouble. But my iPhone lit the place up beautifully. And I wound up shooting the whole wedding just using my phone. In terms of technology to stream a service, you have so many options. I like to keep it simple. I really go for simple. If you can do it with iPhones, multiple iPhones, there's software that will allow you to slave 2 or 3 phones together and switch it from an iPad or a Mac. That's the least expensive, and all you need is good bandwidth. Then beyond that, there's a product called Sling, which you can get a little bit more. Yeah, you heard about it, Kendrick. He'll tell you all about that. But Sling is an amazing tool. And then beyond that, there's a product called vMix and OBS. Now we're getting more technical. So I didn't want to get into the weeds on that, but those are all products on a rising skill set. And you have to be committed to some of those products to really learning what they can do.
Right.
Now, the first time I learned of StreamYard, which we're using right now, was only a few weeks ago. Wisconsin Black Historical Society was doing a feed, and I saw them doing some things. I didn't know how they were doing it. So I called them up. I said, "Are you doing that on Zoom?" And she said, "No, it's StreamYard." The technology is rolling so fast. If you don't stay on it, you miss stuff as it's going by. So to summarize my response to your question, number 1 is your budget. Number 2 is your team. If you've got a little bit more money, you can go on up. But my analogy is like, if you got a Chevrolet and you got a Volkswagen, they both are cars. They'll both get you where you're going. One has different options than the other. And that's what this world of video online is about. So don't get confused about all the different options. Just figure out what you need, and you can always expand and grow. You can give Kendrick and Leslie a call, and they'll hook you right up.
All right. Cavell and Sharon, what would be your recommendations to help pastors get in the game?
Recommendation would be for me, number 1, just to pick up on what Matt was saying. Excellence begins with me, basically. So that's mindset, because we're moving from having church to a word that we've been using during the course of this dialogue to producing church. So we have to go ahead and change our mindsets and to understand and know that this is a production that we are putting on and that we are putting forward and putting forth to everybody, because no matter the size of your church, you have a worldwide ministry right now. So it's going to begin with the mindset, excellence, equipment, and then expertise. So to look at what we're using as far as what we have experience with in our neck of the woods, we have experience with Subsplash. That's one of the biggest platforms that we've been using, to where it's like almost an all-in-one platform to where you can stream, and as well as you can have your church app as well. And that's a big thing right there, because with this technological age that we're in right now, we're reaching people that would have never walked into our doors as a church and ministry. With the church that we're members of right now, we have over 278 app downloads, and 91 of those are on Roku TV. So you have people right now where you can get an application like a Subsplash to where you can put it on Apple TV, your Roku TV. You can get it on an Android device, an Apple device. You
Kindle.
have it all there, and also Kindle Fire as well. So Subsplash is a great tool to use as well, but it's along the end of, you know, the higher end and the higher plane that Matt was talking about. It's very important that you realize and understand where you're at. And once you realize and understand where you're at, you'll go ahead and take your start and then kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I concur with everything you said. It's also a matter of knowing what it is that you want to do, and then knowing whether or not you have the manpower to do it. Because if you try to take it all on yourself, you could end up burning out within a matter of weeks. So it's good to have a functional team, and to also have people who are technologically savvy, or at least willing to learn and get the training to learn, because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing in the last 7 months is self-taught. We had to learn on the fly.
Right.
But the thing is, it's like, now that we know, if anybody were to ask me, you know, where do I start? I have answers for them. Where before I was in Google, I was in Facebook groups trying to figure this out. So it's a matter of having people who are good with technology and who are willing to learn. You cannot, in 2020, you cannot be afraid of technology. You can't be holding on to things the way you used to do it 10, even 5 years ago. You've got to evolve as technology evolves. Otherwise, you're going to get left in the dust.
Yeah, and depending on also your grasp and what you want to do and how far you want to reach, you may need a different type of computer too. It may not just be a plain MacBook, but it's going to have to be a computer that's especially set aside for a lot of your streaming, especially if you're streaming to Facebook, YouTube, you're streaming to your website. You're going to need something that's going to be strong enough, in a hub that you have, that you can stream to those platforms with excellence simultaneously. That's another thing that we had to learn too. We had to upgrade our actual computer.
We had to
build it from scratch completely. So we thank the Lord for Miss Techie over here, that she's really nerdy and astute in a lot of those areas. So we had to build and then kind of went forward from there.
Can I inject two points real quick?
Yes, sir.
When you talk about building a team, I just want to remind our viewers that high school kids and some junior high school kids are so technically savvy.
Yes.
Don't hesitate to bring them into your discussions, because they can do some teaching.
Right.
And the other thing I want to remind people, when you're trying to learn something, YouTube is your friend.
Yes.
There'll be 20 people teaching you the same thing, sometimes in different languages. If you don't know what you're doing, go to YouTube, do a search, and begin to learn. And then there is Udemy. Udemy.com is an amazing website, because you can buy a lesson plan and learn online. It is terrific. Every piece of major software I can think of, they do instruction for. So start with YouTube. If your grandchild can't get you straight, then you move on to YouTube, okay?
Right.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks, Sharon and Cavell. All right, so Bishop, we want to hear from you. You helped me so much personally in the midnight hour, and probably we had a 20-minute conversation, and you gave me probably information that will help me for the next 20 years in that conversation, really on cameras, on bandwidth, all the above. So why don't you take some time and talk about these different platforms that people can stream from, even if you want to get into the conversation about equipment. And I want to really remind everybody that the persons we're talking to and hearing from today are available. When you see their information, you contact them, and they will call back, and they will help you. And I mean, you get in a jam, they will bail you out. So go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead.
Well, thank you once again, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, is between Matt and Sharon and Cavell, I'm the in between man, the tech support, building from scratch. If I can just start from there, your hardware is the most important thing. Your hardware. Right now, I'm installing two i7 16. Well, one is a 16 gig, the other one's a 32 gig RAM computer. One is the pre-production, the other one's post-production. The reason I'm doing two, Sharon, because I know I see your wheels turning, is one is for the broadcast, the other one's for in-house. Now that's a whole spectrum of why we got to do all that. Before we got here, Pastor went to Comcast. I'm in Harvey, Illinois. He had to bump his speed up to a terabyte.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
oh my gosh.
well, you figure if you're going to broadcast on an average of 2 to 3 times a week in a metropolitan area, you need bandwidth.
Yeah, absolutely.
After you get the bandwidth, you have to have the computer to process that bandwidth.
Yep.
So after you have the computer, you have to have the components that go into the computer system. So you can't have, now you can have iPhones, because I use Sling. And I am just diehard Sling. I've been dealing with Sling for 4 years, Matt and Matthew. And it hasn't failed me yet. So I do iPhones. I'm installing 4K cameras here so they can record and do various things. On top of that, the audio component, once again, they have upgraded to digital mixer. And I know a lot of pastors say, they see digital, they see HD, they see 4K. The first thing they say, how much does it cost? I tell you, like my grandfather tell me, don't nothing cost too much that you don't want to spend money on. And that's what he taught me. So there's a lot of components that take place. If I could just deal with one thing that is dear to my heart is the sound. You have to spend money on your production sound, in-house and out of the house. Analog is good. I've been doing this 31 years. I started with analog before there was a digital. But if you don't have the crew to handle your separate mixes, if you don't have the crew that has the ear for the sound of broadcasting, production, you need to develop them. Once again, the kids. My youngest daughter is 21. She's been working with me since she was 12. My granddaughter is 12 now. She's starting to work with me during the summer. Thanks, Matthew. I have 5 girls, no boys. So they've all been around the wheel. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. As Pastor Evans said, where you're going to start at is very important. You can't, what's the old folks say? You can't pull the cart before the horse.
Right.
You have to start somewhere, but you have to be mindful of your vision. If you want to build a vision, you got to be very mindful that it's going to cost time, energy, and money.
Yep.
Right.
It's going to cost you. You have to put your time in, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's masterclass, whether it's tech support. Someone has to put the time in order to bring excellence on board. So,
what we're doing right now, in my early in my career, I would have had to rent a remote truck, and I would have needed a crew of about 6 people to do what we're doing right now.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
And that would have cost a minimum of $10,000.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Bishop, we have a question from our viewers, and you will find this one very interesting because it's coming from your partner. She's saying, Mr. Scales, what can you use if your budget isn't sling? That's coming from Leslie.
Hi, honey.
Show her one of these now. Show her one of these.
Yeah.
Oh, she has the newest one.
Yeah. That's his wife. That's his wife, man.
Okay.
He's saying, what would you recommend to a church? Go ahead, Bishop.
She's the brains behind the job. If your budget is a sling, well, once again, iPad, iPhone, Android tablet, because there are so many platforms out there that you can use. Your basic laptop can do it with the webcam. An advanced webcam will cost you $100 for an advanced webcam to your laptop. There's Mevo. Mevo is $400 or $500.
Right.
There's what's the
Switcher
other one called?
Studio.
What is it?
There is Switcher Studio where you
Switcher
can string
Studio.
together
There you go. Switcher
multiple
Studio.
iPhones.
Just run your iOS with Switcher Studio. You can run from the iPad, iPhone, Mac.
Yeah.
But there's probably, I don't know, I can't keep count, but there's probably 15 to 20 platforms out there now that you can utilize. It's all about what kind of production you want to have or produce, from your cell phone to a camera, what grade of camera, and so forth. You can do just a regular HD camera with half a inch meter on it.
But now let me ask this question. Let me jump in and ask this question. I do know we're on the StreamYard platform. It was recommended to me by one of the members of our church, and so I mean that afternoon, it was right after I had broadcasted our worship on Zoom, and it was at the time when I was having a hard time connecting Zoom to social media. And I just think what was happening, everything was saturated. And she sent me a text. Why don't you try StreamYard? I went directly to StreamYard. I found out that I could try it absolutely free. Yeah. And so that next Sunday, I tried it absolutely free. And it was a seamless broadcast. I said, oh, well, at least I'm getting in at the entry level now. And so I know that a lot of these applications are free, at least on a trial basis.
Right.
Maybe limited in what you can do, but I want people to know that they can make recommendations to their pastor without making a big budget impact right off the bat, and at least on a trial basis. Okay, Pastor, let's do prayer meeting on this platform. Let's do Bible study on this platform. And then we can expand it as we see its usefulness.
Right.
Matt, I think you were going to chime in and say something.
Yes, I know our discussion has been centered primarily around streaming church services.
Yes.
But I think there is a tremendous opportunity beyond the service to be mobile with our ministry, and to use locations as metaphors for whatever the sermon might be. what would happen if, I believe in gang, what I call gang producing or group producing, because time is of essence. A typical pastor doesn't have a lot of time to worry about television production.
Right.
But if he could set aside one day a month to record multiple pieces,
Right.
it's much more time efficient.
Yes.
And from one really great location, you can turn the camera in 4 different directions and have different backgrounds, provide a different feel. You might even change your jacket between takes. So you've become a force multiplier.
Right.
But taking our ministries to the street, imagine someone from the church going to Feeding America right over there on Fond du Lac Avenue and being recorded while they are packing boxes for the poor and talking about that whole mechanism of distributing food. Imagine going down to the bridge underneath near Marquette where the homeless are living and doing a sermon or even talking to people about their plight. The church can be more mobile.
Right.
And that brings a dynamic feeling to it. And then the main thing I wanted to do is talk about involving young people, you know, because a lot of people, their church is on the go, and some churches are cutting back the number of services every Sunday. But if you can reach people where they are with stories that touch their lives, I think that is the true power of this technology that we're talking about. And once again, these things are amazing.
Right.
So,
and another application that we didn't really mention, but another two key applications. Number one is Microsoft Teams too. If you have access to a lot of those things right there, you can do live streaming, you can do webinars, and you can do team things within there to where you can connect your certain people in there and do your trainings for that. And number two, Google Suite too is also a remarkable technological thing that you can utilize for multimedia. So I've experienced some churches and ministries even utilizing the Google Hangouts and the Google Meet to do a lot of those things like that. So you have those aspects too that are very budget friendly. They're no more, I think for the Google Suite, the Google Drive Suite is like $26 a month.
Right.
Very, very inexpensive. And then you have a lot of those things that you can share as well. But Microsoft Teams is something that we're launching personally with Kingdom First Consulting, dealing with a lot of our clients. So we're going to be shifting toward Microsoft Teams to bring people in so we can do some screen sharing. If they have any questions about website management, if they have any questions about administrative training and everything like that, Microsoft Teams and the Google Suite is another go-to as well. And as it pertains to the developing of your young people, you would be absolutely shocked at what your people within your church and ministry know how to do.
Yeah.
All it takes is somebody asking, somebody, just extending the olive branch.
Right.
Hey, what is it that you have an interest in? Hey, what is it that you have to do? You would be surprised, because I'm a firm believer that every local church and every local ministry has what they need to get done, what it is that they need to get done.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a firm believer of that. So going back to Matt's point that he made about getting the younger people and also utilizing a whole lot of different aspects and different looks of ministry, it's the Acts 2 model. They went from house to house, fellowshipping, everybody bought their needs and everything had everything common, and kind of going forward from there. So what we're seeing right now, we're acting out Acts 2 in real time, utilizing technology.
Yeah. And the successfulness of your production or whatever you're going to do, it heavily relies on how much you're willing to invest in the training of your people.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to get far just throwing people into a position or into a task and just saying, okay, figure it out. You got to be willing to at least help them find training, get them started, tell them, hey, go on YouTube and find the video. Maybe you go find the video and share it with them. You can learn together, but you've got to at least point them in the right direction to get them training and to get them going, because you're only going to be able to go as far as your people can be with you as good as you train them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I would also recommend having a written production strategy. You know, what are your production goals? Beyond televising your service, what are your production goals for ministry and reacting to things that are going on in the community? You know, there is a major event on MLK birthday, or there's a tragedy in our community. What is your rapid response philosophy? No, you're not a news station. I realize that. It's not your job to go out and cover it as news. But there are things that are threads into the fabric of our community that could be further discussed. And that should be part of your overall strategy of what is your church's video platform? What does it look like?
Currently, once again, besides for the sanctuary, we're building a virtual studio.
Good.
We pray the pandemic will be over very soon, but this is just in case there's a blizzard and no one can get to church but pastor.
Yeah.
So we're building a virtual studio, which actually used to be the video room with tons of the old analog equipment. So we're making a virtual studio, which I would recommend to every pastor. Find a little nook and cranny, get a green screen.
Right.
Get your production together.
Right.
Get you some young folks that will fight through the weather or fight through the time and get there and work it the best they can. I know of a pastor who shut down his church actually, and he became mobile, like you said, Matthew. And he came upon some young folks that were in college doing video production. Took the DSLRs, filmed them, mastered the production. He's live every week.
Bishop, just real quick.
Matt, let me jump in, Matt, because we got a question from the floor while he mentioned the virtual studio, and they want you to kind of expand on that a bit to describe what a virtual studio consists of for folks who may not know what that means.
Virtual studio can be it can be a stationary one or mobile. It's basically set up your green screen. Sharon and Cavell are on green screen, correct, right?
Yeah.
Right now, we're
not on green screen right now, but this is our this actual
backdrop.
Yeah.
So the green screen is the backdrop. It's an artificial background where you can now superimpose some type of virtual background.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. And from there, you can put up your comments, your logo, your subscriptions and emails, web page, and everything.
Video.
Scrolling across just like you're doing with StreamYard.
So you can do graphical things with the virtual background, but you need a green screen in order to be able to do
and
those.
once you can be mobile with it.
Okay.
You can be mobile with it. I take my cue from Jamal Bryant. When the pandemic started, Jamal Bryant has done probably virtually almost every place in Atlanta. He's been to Ebenezer. He's been to barbershops. He's been to he even did one in the police station.
Right.
And it's a matter of your team setting up the background or staging. Let's say use that word also. Staging for the production.
And I think Matt, you kind of made reference to that of taking a day of production and being in a variety of different locations, just changing the jacket, and now you've done several production clips in one day. And but go ahead, Matt. You were gonna go ahead. What's that contraption you have there?
The bishop will probably be able to talk about wireless microphones.
Okay.
Because as you started off saying, if you don't have good sound, you're really in trouble. But this is a gimbal, and I can use my smartphone with this, and it stabilizes. So I can walk through a crowd. I can walk down a nature path. I can go anywhere with a stable video shot. It doesn't look like much right now, but it's an amazing tool, and it's not very expensive. And you couple this with a good quality wireless microphone so that you've always got good sound. And now your ministry is mobile. Your ministry is mobile.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead,
now-
Bishop. Go ahead.
Now, in order to make it mobile, you can plug it into your car.
Mhm.
That's how mobile you could be. Right now they have at Home Depot a battery pack with an outlet on it with 150 watts that will run a lapel mic and charge your iPhone or your phone, period. Which makes you mobile. And a friend of mine did a wedding and reception with it outside. So that's 4 or 5 hours of power he had outside, no generator, just that battery pack. That's $200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To run his mic, he ran. Matter of fact, he ran a mic, a small mixer, had a mic on the bride, mic on the groom, and a mic on the pastor.
Wow. So, I mean, the capabilities are endless.
Yes.
And, I just want to encourage my colleagues to just get in the game. I think by now, 7 months in,
Man.
most ministries that want to be connected are connected in some way. And I'm
Right.
thankful for that. But it was very frustrating for me early on to hear from ministry colleagues who just, threw their hands in the air and says, hey, listen, if I can't meet in my church, man, we ain't doing anything. And you can connect with your people just putting forth some effort. Putting forth some effort. And then once you really kind of get in the game, you can expand and go mobile and just do so much with it. And the thing that I'm thankful and that God allowed me to meet the four of you is that I know that you can provide quick solutions to immediate predicaments, and then also offer ongoing support, training, and encouragement for people. And that I do know because I've been able to get that from all of you along the way. And that's what I think is most critical. Now, what I really want to do with this is kind of take it to another level, because I know Matt would love to have a class where he could teach you over several successive sessions.
We'll be the first ones to register for Matt's class,
Yes,
too,
please.
Pastor.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
right over here.
Yes, please. I need to
know,
learn
Camille
more.
and Sharon, that is exactly what the two of you do. So
Yeah.
I know that you would love to pack in a group of folks virtually to kind of walk them through, to help them get that functional administrative piece together, but then also convince people that how important it is to simply get into the website game, get into having an application for your church.
Yes.
And that it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to do that.
Right.
But you got to get started in it, because you've got to find these digital ways of connecting with people. We found out this year that mail was being held up due to the pandemic. My mom sent me a package from Michigan. When she tracked it, she said it should be there by now. Yeah. So we ended up tracking it further. It ended up out in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
I called the person at the post office. The person at the post office says, well, Pastor Evans, you ought to be thankful that it made it to Washington, because if it didn't, it would be 7 weeks before you got the package. Because they said 17 trucks were backed up in mid-Michigan. And the entire regional post office was shut down because they had so many people test positive for the virus. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Kingdom First Consulting can provide a very important part of this puzzle, which is a website to park your videos. So as your library grows and grows and grows, you don't just do it once and throw it away. You want to park it so that when people drop by, they can just browse around and see some of the things you've been doing.
Yeah.
Kingdom First will get that done for you. And if they won't, I will. So we're good.
All right. So we, we're getting some questions from the floor again. Minister Foster is saying, can you tell us what kinds of hardware is available for those who have issues with wireless to extend the signal? And Minister Foster, that's a conversation that Bishop Scales and I had early on, that 20 minutes.
This is the most helpful tool. Was my camera?
Okay.
Extender.
All right.
Yeah.
An extender.
This is
And listen. For those of you who are listening to it live and who will listen to the replay later, because this is going to be available on YouTube as well as Facebook. By all means, pay attention to the banners that are scrolling and tickering across the bottom, because this is how you contact these agencies and these persons that you see today who have answers. They have the answers. And so, call them, email them,
yes,
and engage with them and contract with them so that you can have an ongoing relationship and get the answers to everything that you need for what you're doing. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
All right, man. This is good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Real good stuff.
I had somebody just connect with us in regard to audio and visual ministry member training. They want to know who does that. I think Bishop Scales does that with the video ministry team members. So yeah.
My goal is after the winter, if we have a winter in Wisconsin, is to do a symposium at Greater Mount Sinai. We're in the process of upgrading to a new mixer and other things that need updating, so amps and so forth. Also, we just purchased a couple of new cameras, and then we're going to, I believe, 4 more cameras there, the video switcher and the screen production and everything.
Right.
Also, when the churches are forming their video production teams, there are some fun projects that they can pursue that will help other people become more enamored with video. For example, I believe in gang producing user-generated content. If you have a committee of 5 people, 5 young people, and they all get the assignment to go out and capture 2 minutes of video that's part of a story, and then you edit all those together, and now you have a longer segment that becomes a mini program. Put a beginning and an ending on it, and it becomes exciting, and it's inclusive. There are so many clever ways of pulling people in and telling the stories of the church, the members of the church, visiting people in their hospitals and letting them talk to the congregation and say, thank you for your well wishes.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
To piggyback off what Matthew said, being a preacher, one thing people can do is get with a pastor, especially if a pastor is preaching a series, and incorporate the two together. So tell the story with the story. So you have, because a lot of people are not going to read their Bible. They're going to read what they see. We're dealing with audio-visual generation. So if they do, like Matthew said, tell a story with the scriptures, it takes a load off the pastor to produce the sermon.
Right.
He can say, hit it. And you build a platform that way.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, my phone is ringing. That must mean we're down to the end of the hour.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Wow. But listen, I want to thank each of you and for taking the time to be with us today. I'm going to ask all of you to kind of hang around backstage so we can do some follow-up. The folks who are listening already are eager to get more information. And I want to try to create an opportunity for us to do that. again, I know all of you are eager to offer instruction to people and to provide a service to people, and you guys are great at what you do. So not only that, not only are you highly skilled and come highly recommended, but each of you are ministry minded. Um, it was interesting when I was talking to Matt the other day, and I said, "Wow, Matt, God really led me across Matt's path because Matt is always talking about how to engage people in
Yeah.
ministry,
That's
and
awesome.
and
Yeah.
like this, he came Cavell right at my heart because he's like, we've got to get these young people,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and that's one aspect in the pandemic that I think has been really overlooked, and that is
Yeah.
concerns for our young people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter is 17, and it's her senior year in high school, and probably about a week into virtual learning, I asked her, I said, "How's this thing going?" And she said, "Dad, it's okay. We're learning and we're getting that, and and we appreciate everybody's concern for our health with this virus."
Mm-hmm.
She said, but, I think people need to be concerned about the mental health of young people now because being separated from each other is putting a mental strain
Yeah.
on us. And I was like, wow,
Mhm.
sometimes we just need to go beyond what we're doing to show our young people how much we really care.
Amen.
Thanks to each of you. We got a few more comments. I want to just let you guys get exposed to them, and before I excuse you from the stream. And this is from President James Ivey. He says, "This has been great." And he's asking a question: what have ministries who've been successful with using social media for their ministry done to address the need of engaging senior members
Yeah.
of the congregation to whom social media is very foreign?
Mhm.
Go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead.
What Greater Mount Sinai has done, what we've done there is young people
Mhm.
assign a young person to
Yes.
a senior, and they go to it, YouTube for Greater Mount Sinai. Either this on their TV or they show it on the tablet, computer, whatever, and that's the way for them to minister to the seniors. The seniors minister to them, keep the young folks active, and they still see the service, and it just keeps generating from there.
Yeah. And then to add on to what Bishop Scales said, we're just calling people, just still using the phone and just making a phone call to people.
Yeah.
So in regard to that, we're on Uber conference too with a lot of our seniors. You would be shocked at how many of them would jump on there, dial the number. You don't need an access code. They're there.
They're there.
We plugged one particular mother in our church, maybe about a month or so. April, we contacted her, asked her how she was doing. Mother, we have Sunday school on Uber conference. We just do Sunday school, just do the call, have them all call in. She hasn't missed a Sunday since. And this mother is 87 years old.
Wow.
So it's a very, very powerful tool to use your free conference call or Uber conference. Back in on Uber conference allows you to mute everybody. I highly recommend that you do your Uber conference calling to engage your seniors. Let them know that's there. All they have to do is dial the number. Even if they don't have a cell phone, they have a wired phone, they can dial the number in and boom, and they're there. So that's one recommendation too, to plug in your seniors. But we're trying to partner with our seniors, and we're even looking at downloading and making MP4s of our recordings that we're doing on Facebook and YouTube and everything like that, putting them on a CD and maybe getting it to them. So you have to combine the old school along with the new school technology as well. Just merge them all together, because the phone is considered ancient right now. The Uber conference and free conference call, that's considered ancient, but it does have a place to help your seniors get engaged and to keep them plugged in. Those are your seniors that are not on social media. A lot of the seniors have reached out to their grandchildren, other young people in the church. They have Facebook accounts and they're on, but there's still some seniors that are not on. And then we have the phone on Sunday morning And we have a prayer call on Monday night as well that we've been utilizing. And it's been really great to engage our seniors and to keep them plugged in.
Just before Matt and Kendrick, before Bishop, before you guys jump in, I do want to say, Cavell, that I learned that Free Conference Call actually has an app for tablets as well as for computer devices where you can do video conferencing. You can expand it beyond just the phone conference. And I don't know if many people know that, but you can set it up where you can people can actually see one another. And I think that's a blessing in the midst of this pandemic when we can't gather all the time, that people at least can see one another. Go ahead, Matt, and then Bishop, you guys follow up on that.
Well, I just wanted to say that there's a very large group of people, elders, that don't know how to use their phone to its fullest capability. You know, how to get the pictures off your phone, how to send an attachment, some of the basics. If we can help people get over their fear of this device and enjoy it more, that's taking a big step toward what we've been talking about for the last hour. So workshops, small ones, groups of 5 or 10, but helping people get through step 1 before we go on to more complicated things.
Bishop.
Another tool is the old school way. If you can get with the local radio station during the gospel hour, or ask God for favor to broadcast your service, your audio service. The seniors will go to that old dial, dial in, just to listen, and say, "That's my pastor."
Wow.
You know, you have to use the tools that are given to you. The AM/FM is not gone, but you know you have to. It's still local. Even your local cable station, if you can get them to take your broadcast live, or take them a copy of it right after your service, you know, just so your people can engage.
One of the things that
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Pastor, you did not mention one unique thing about StreamYard that we're using right now. You have the ability to live stream to multiple destinations simultaneously. With StreamYard, you can send it to Facebook, YouTube, and another source, all at one time.
All at one time. Yeah. And I think most platforms are expanding to have that feature as well. I really appreciate the question about engaging with the seniors, and I really love the emphasis in our conversation today about connecting with the youth. When we first started, I think I was on a Facebook Live when we first started in this pandemic, and and this whole thing kind of covered us and overshadowed us, and we likened it unto the plagues in Egypt in the book of Exodus. Well, you know, the Passover was the final plague. And of course, the Israelites escaped out of Egypt, and they got, to the embankment where they crossed the Red Sea. And then the narrative tells us that they were covered by a cloud. And so the cloud is definitely a media term that most of us who are familiar with technology understand. And so what I challenged the folks that were tuned in, I said, listen, if we've got loved ones who don't have Facebook and social media, but they have smartphones, then I said, we owe it to them to draw them into the cloud and to spend time with our loved ones so that they can become acquainted with how to tune in and how to connect. And now we have church mothers in their 80s, like Cavell said, who are tuned into social media and who have remained connected. And so it's our responsibility as leaders and shepherds to get our people in the cloud, keep them in the cloud where they be covered, safe, able to navigate, and stay with the family.
Amen.
All right, so why don't y'all just take a second and give us some closing ideas, and I've got a feeling that we've got to go beyond an hour. We're not going to go too far beyond today, but we've got to maybe get some sessions set up where people can register and come in and you guys walk them through some things. We've got a question about the vast variety of resources that are available. We've got to go beyond today. I believe the hunger and the thirst for this information will drive us to go beyond today. So give us some closing things, and then we'll close out and carry on with the rest of our afternoon. Go ahead, Bishop Scales. You started us, and you give us a closing, a parting idea.
Whatever we do, let's do it in excellence. Whether it's no budget, low budget, blow the roof off, do it in excellence. Don't cut any corners. Do what's applicable to your ministry, and your ministry can grow from there. Whether you're going to concentrate on outdoor services, indoor, both services, mobile services, whatever you do, just I would say just do it in excellence. And there's a wealth of information here from us three, and I would say start there.
Okay. Cavell and Sharon.
Yeah, and whatever we do, I just urge whoever is going to be watching this to do something. I've had conversations with pastors that have not done anything in 8 months. Whatever you do, you're going to have to do something to keep your people connected and to forward the gospel of Jesus Christ. Just because we're in the midst of the pandemic does not mean that the enemy is going to and fro seeking who he may devour. So it's important for us to do something and to do it in excellence, but at the same time, don't become stuck. The message, mandate, and mission of Jesus Christ remains the same. It's just different methodologies that we're utilizing to get that message to the masses that need it the most. So in whatever you're doing, if you're out there listening to me, if you're not doing anything, start with something. Free conference call. Start with your phone. Start with gathering your people and having them come together on a Tuesday, on a Sunday morning. Do something with it. And then from there, you can learn and then you can progress. I was just having a conversation with my wife on yesterday, along with our pastor. And I was just telling our pastor and my wife, it's just remarkable on where we started at March 22nd to where we are right now on November the 9th. With just a little bit of work, we've evolved and went up and up and up, but we had a willingness to work. So that's my biggest prayer for those that may be tuning in. Have a willingness to work, do something. Your congregants and your people are depending on you, especially if you're a leader within a church or ministry. If you're a leader within a church or ministry, it should be your calling. It should be your mandate to ensure that your people are connected some way, somehow, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on the phone. We have to make sure that we're keeping our people connected in these times.
Thank you. Matthew.
I encourage people to be curious. Be curious and expand your video universe. Don't be parochial in the way you approach it. Recognize and accept the fact that you can reach out to people in other cities, in other states, and other countries. And for your Facebook page and your web page, remember that you've got to keep them current. You've got to keep updating them, refresh them with new content.
Right.
Okay. I'm not asking you to be a news operation, but I'm asking you to be current in the major things that are going on in our community.
Right.
You know, ministering the sick, feeding the hungry, keeping tabs on our corona crisis. Those are things that can be done now. And this tool is a powerful thing. Just use it. Use it. Use it. Put a squad together that'll be out there doing different elements that can all come back to the mothership, the church. And if you need a workshop, we all volunteer. Well, maybe not volunteer, but we're all available to do workshops with you. So give us a call. We're here.
The key word is that they're all available, and and the information is accessible to whomever needs it.
Yes, sir.
I want to encourage you to reach out to Scales Pro Audio, and Bishop and Leslie Scales can be contacted at area code 847-878-2383. I want you to be encouraged to reach out to Kingdom First Consulting, Cavell and Sharon Samuels at kingdomfirstconsulting.com. Go to their website where you can connect with them and utilize their services. And then Matthew Mixon at the Mixon Media Group, area code 909-565-3880. And you can reach him via email at matt@mixonmedia.com.
Right here in Milwaukee.
Right here in Milwaukee, right here in Southeast Wisconsin, and even beyond. I mean, as we even have learned in our conversation today, not only is church ministry worldwide now, but the services that they provide are universal. They are universal. Okay. All right. Thanks again, everybody, for sharing in such a rich fashion today. I think we really spent our time well, and there's so much more that I know can be shared beyond what we've already discussed. But I think we made a great entry point into encouraging ministries in the area of multimedia applications. All right. So I'm going to just give a few things that I'd like to share, and I'm going to just say goodbye to you guys for a brief moment, and then I'll reconnect with you backstage. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to share this broadcast out to your family and friends. Be sure to share it out with your church members, your pastor, and encourage them to tune in and to also make contact with our guests to utilize their services. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about church music and the legal aspects of church music and streaming. And we'll also be talking about ideas of church music in the midst of a pandemic, and then the future of church music beyond. We're going to welcome two very capable ministers of music to be with us tomorrow afternoon. So join us at 2:00 tomorrow afternoon. And if you haven't, and you're definitely interested in building your biblical foundation, go to the state convention website, Wisconsin General Baptist State Convention, WGBSC.org. And you can register for our seminars that will take place tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday evening at 7:00. There are some great sessions that are going to be held, and we want to encourage you to do that. Invite a friend to join us in our state Congress November session. And then on Thursday, we'll have our board of directors meeting at the 2:00 hour. There'll be a Zoom link provided for all the officers and pastors who are part of our convention work, where you can join us for our board session. And then Thursday evening, we will have the broadcast of our Congress president giving his annual address and the report from our dean on our fall institute and educational session. Thank you for joining us today, and God bless you for your time and for your sharing.